In this video, we're going to complete the KutaSoftware Infinite Pre-Algebra free worksheet, rounding numbers. So for numbers 1 through 24, we're to round each to the place indicated. So looking at number 1, the millions place is the place that's indicated. So we're rounding to the nearest million. And in order to round to the nearest number, we need to look at that previous place. In this case, we're looking at this 6. Now, if the number is 5 or greater, we round up, so the 8 will become a 9. If the number was less than 5, then we would round down. 632,051 falls between 8 million and 9 million, but it's closer to 9 million. Therefore, we round to 9 million. Now looking at number 2, we have 25,952,938. We're rounding to the nearest hundred thousandths place. So our given number is between 25,900,000 and 26 million, because looking at the previous number 5, we need to round that 9 up. However, adding 1 to 9 gives us 10. Therefore, this becomes 26 million, rounding up. So rounding to the nearest hundred thousandths place, we round to 26 million. Now let's move on to number 3. In number 3, we're rounding to the nearest hundredths place. So our number 803,119 is between 803,100 and 803,200. But looking at that previous number in the tens place, that's a 1, so we're rounding down to 803,100. And again, we can look at this as 119. That's closer to 100 than it is to 200. So it's next, we have 73,693. We're rounding to the nearest 10,000th place. So we're either rounding to 70,000 or 80,000. But our number rounds down to 70,000 as opposed to rounding up to 80,000. And again, that's because this 3 is less than 5, so our number stays the same, 70,000. And number 5, we have 2,461,612,242. So this entire number, if we're rounding to the billions place, it's either going to be rounding down to 2 billion or rounding up to 3 billion. And that's all based on the 100 millions place. So because 4 is less than 5, our number will stay the same. So we're rounding down to 2 billion. In number 6, we're dealing with the number 789,132,377. And we are rounding to the nearest 100 millions place. So this number falls between 700 million and 800 million. However, in order to figure out which one we need to round to, we're going to look at that previous place, which if we're rounding to the nearest 100 million, that's the 10 millions place. And because that number is an 8, we're rounding up. So as opposed to leaving this number as 7, it will become an 8. So this will be 800 million. That's the number that we round to. In number 7, it says to round to the billions place. And that is that place here. We have 9,885,659,260. So in order to figure out where we're going to round, we know that we're rounding to the nearest billion, but this number falls between 9 billion and 10 billion. Which one are we going to round to? Well, looking at that previous place, this 8 is greater than 5. So our overall number is closer to 10 billion than it is to 9 billion. So we'll add 1 to 9 to give us 10. So 10 billion. And number 8, we're rounding to the thousandths place. Our number is 2,628,259. So we're rounding to that thousandths place, which is where our 8 is. Now, this number is between 2,628,000 and 2,629,000. And in order to figure out which one we round to, we look at that previous place, so the one to the right of our 8, which is the hundredths place, so that 2. The 2 is less than 5, therefore this number stays the same. So we'll have 2,628,000 as our rounded number. And number 9, we're rounding to the 10,000ths place, which is where our 4 is. So we have 347,168. So this number falls between 340,000 and 350,000 when rounding to the nearest 10,000. So we have to decide, will this stay a 4 or will it become a 5? Well, 7 is greater than 5, therefore we'll round the 4 up to a 5. So we'll have 350,000 as our rounded number. And number 9, we're rounding to the billions place, the one in the 100 millionth place. So the digit to the right of that 9 is a 7, which is greater than 5. So we need to add 1 to our 9. So that will be 10 billion. In number 11, we're rounding to the thousandths place. Our number is 1,399,179. Rounding to the thousandths place, we're looking at this 9 in that thousandths place. So our overall number, when rounding to the thousands, is between 1,399,000 and 1,400,000. So we need to look to the number to the right of that 9, which is in the hundredths place. 1 we would round down, so we'll keep this 9 as is. So we'll round to 1,399,000. Now, if this 1 was, let's say, a 5, we would need to round up, adding 1 to 9, but that gives us 10, so we would have to carry that other tens place over 1. That gives us a 10. Carrying it over it to the 3, that becomes a 4. So that would have been 1,400,000. However, because 1 was less than 5, we didn't have to worry about that. So we just rounded to 1,399,000. For number 12, we're rounding to the millionths place. So locating that spot here, we need to look at that previous place, which is the 100,000ths place. Because it's a 1, we will keep our millionths place as is and not round up. So we'll just have 271 million. Now on to number 13. 13 is our first look at a decimal. We have 44 and then followed by this decimal. And we're going to be rounding to the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000, 100,000ths place. So just like before, we need to look to the place to the right of that number. So if we're rounding to the nearest 100,000ths place, that's the millionths place. And because it's a 9, we're rounding up and adding 1 to the 4. So this is 44 and 54,435 hundredths. So again, that's 44.54435. And number 14, we're rounding to the nearest tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths place. And this 5 comes before that, so we're going to round up. But adding 1 to 9 will give us a 10. So we will need to add that number to our 3, so this will become 5.33740. Because remember, we're rounding to that nearest 100,000ths place, so we need to have that 0 as our placeholder. However, adding 1 to a 9 will be 10, so we'll just add 1 to 39, which would then be 40. So this is 5 and 33,740 hundred thousandths, 5.33740. And number 15, we're rounding hundred thousandths place. So in 15, we're rounding to the hundred thousandths place, and again, looking at that digit directly to the right, it's greater than 5, so we need to round up, but adding 1 to 9 will give us 10, so we need to add 1 to 59, which will be 60. So this number is 8.74960, or in other words, 74,960 hundred thousandths. 8 and 74,960 hundred thousandths. And number 16, we're rounding to the nearest tenths. We're looking at that digit to the right of that, so we're looking at the hundredths place. And that's a 1, which is less than 5, so we're keeping the 9 as is. So this will be 74 and 9/10. In number 17, we're rounding to the 10,000th spot. And it's a 9 with a 1 directly to the right. So we're rounding down, keeping that 9. So this will be 7,209 10,000ths. 0.7209. And 18, we have 23 and 368 10,000ths. However, we're rounding to the nearest thousandths place. And because the digit before is greater than 5 and 8, we're rounding up. So adding 1 to 6, that will become 7. So this will be 23 and 37 thousandths. 23.037. In number 19, we're rounding to the nearest thousandth. So that is this one here. Now looking at that previous digit, it's a 3, so we're keeping the 1. So this will be 9 and 311 thousandths, 9.311. In number 20, we're rounding to the nearest tenths. And because that previous digit, the 1 to the right of the 9 in the hundredths place is a 7, which is greater than 5, we know we need to round up. So rounding to that nearest number, or the nearest tenths, we'll need to add 1 to 9. However, adding 1 to 9 will give us 10, which is not a single digit. So we need to add 1 to 69, which will give us a 1. So that will be 7.0. 7 and 0/10 as our solution. So again, our number falls between 6 and 9/10 and 7 and 0/10. So rounding up, we'll go to 7 and 0/10, or 7.0. In number 21, we're rounding to the tenths again. So looking at that previous place, in the hundredths place, that's a 7, which is greater than 5. So we know that this number is going to be rounded up. And it falls between 6 and 3/10 and 6 and 4/10. So this will get rounded to 6.4. In other words, 6 and 4/10. For number 22, we're rounding to the nearest hundred thousandths. So remember, we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, hundred thousandths. So we're looking at this 9. And the digit to the right of a 9 is a 4, which is less than 5. We know we're going to keep the 9 as is. So this is 1.73549, or 1 and 73,549 hundred thousandths. In number 23, we're rounding to the thousands, which is this 5 right here. So looking at the digit to the right is less than 5. So we know we're going to keep the 5 as is. So this number will round to 1.495. It falls between 1.495 and 1.496. However, our number is closer to 1 and 495 thousandths. In our last problem, number 24, we're rounding to the hundredths place. To the right of the hundredths place is a 1 in the thousandths place. And because that 1 is less than 5, we're rounding down. So we'll have 8 and 12 hundredths as opposed to 8 and 13 hundredths. So 8.12 is our final solution on this worksheet. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if you just need a refresher on this type of lesson, go to my tutorial section on YouTube or to maemap.com, maemap.com.